Memories. 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 Memories.
It's a brand new season of CGL.
This is just an absolute treat. These players are so damn good.
The talent on these teams is undeniable. Everybody on every team right now is making plays.
It's going to be an exciting start to the season, and it'll just get better from here on out.
We're about to step to a whole new era of Overwatch esports. So much exciting action is happening here on CGL that you do not want to miss.
Look who's starting it all off, it's Raven. No one necessarily figure out what is the right way to go just yet.
What a nice roll through from Peyton. It's just gonna solidify everything for Mythos.
Does come back, and Arsario gets the mech, but I don't need a mech. I'll kill 4 anyway.
This is just a highlight reel for Arsario right now.
They're making a statement in the EU Masters here.
this patch is still incredibly fresh. There's so much to learn, so much to change about the way we play the game.
SKT, but the shatter is colossal.
Let's get it going.
Trades keep coming through. Laura, is he going to be able to find these shots true?
Idu on the overclock with 2.
Here comes an Avalanche immediately to the back. Fine skills, slicing and dicing their way through 2-3. So back and forth.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to CGL. We've got some NA action for you here tonight. It is the Diamond Division, one of my favorites personally here. It is Rags and Rain bringing you all the action once more. We have got Emerald Eagles versus EIG Scouts for tonight's match.
It's gonna be a tough matchup here for Emerald Eagles. Unfortunately, don't have a solid win under their belts. They did get a victory in week 2 versus Ham Choi, but they've more or less been on a loss streak ever since then. So they're looking to really try and turn things around here. We're in week 6, so they only have 2 more weeks to try and get some wins under their belt before, of course, we head into those playoffs. EIG Scouts sitting about the middle of the pack in this Diamond Division right now. So they are definitely looking to try and maintain their place, and it definitely would be a pretty hit if they did take a loss to this team that's currently the bottom seed.
Yeah, you said it, Rain. We are right now in the latter stages of the season. Mid-season tournament has already come and gone, and now there's just a few more weeks to go before we sort things out in the play-ins, playoffs, and everything that follows on from there. So, yeah, you really need to find some more wins to your name. It's really tough going for Emerald Eagles in terms of their just overall record here, but for EIG Scouts, there is plenty of track ahead of them. They just need to find some more wins, and they're looking to make this another stepping stone to victory for them.
Yeah, definitely looking to bounce back from their week number 5, Virtus Pronouns Academy taking the win there. But I will say the matches that the EIG Scouts lost, definitely a little bit closer than some of the ones that the Emerald Eagles has played. I'm seeing a lot of 0-3s here, but it's, you know, later half of the season, and I think the meta has been shaking up a little bit more. We're not as locked into that Zarya vendetta as we were when this season first started. So if you're looking to play a little bit more Diva, maybe a little more Tracer Sojourn, this is the time to really pull those out and try and make a comeback.
Yeah, this is the time, and we also know the place. You know, this stage of the season, we've got all of our first maps in the series plotted out. It is going to be Samoa for our control. Love to get to see one of the lesser played on the pro level of these first maps, it feels like here. Love to explore something that is not, for example, Lijiang Tower for our opener for the series. And then from there, it's the bans, folks. We're deciding what the shape of the metagame is going to be going into our first map here. You mentioned it, Rain. Diva is kind of ubiquitous at all levels right now. Yes, of course, the Zarya Deta compositions are still very good, but there is just so much the Diva can run and provide for you, you know, in terms of dive, in terms of sustain, in terms of sheer protection for everybody else, and murderization for your opponent's backline. That's kind of tough for anyone to either not run her or at least not think about the opponent and banning them out.
Yeah, definitely something that these teams will want to keep in mind. Now, this is going to be a best of 5, so first to 3. So, gonna have to be very careful about these bans because, of course, these teams are not going to be able to ban the same hero twice. But, hey, they are looking to ban out the Zarya here. Emerald Eagles not only protecting that tank role, but taking the Zarya off the field here. And although, yeah, that is going to be, you know, taking the Zarya Vendetta comp out, it does definitely open things up for that Diva to really shine.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much any of these control maps is open field, open season for these Zarya Vendetta compositions here. So it makes total sense to get that off the board if you do not want to run headlong into that, or you don't really favor yourself in that mirror if you've got your own angle of attack, if you want to play a more traditional dive that doesn't involve massive swords coming down to cleave you in twain. But likewise, you will not have shotguns doing the very same thing. Reaper was essentially filling Vendetta's slot before Vendetta was Vendetta at this point in the game here. So yeah, you're not going to be able to run any of these variations, this composition coming through here. Honestly, the Reaper rarely sees play without the Zarya, but I guess you want to be extra sure that that is not going to play into you. Can be absolutely lethal assassin in your backline. So yep, 2 solid bans, 2 expected bans, I think, given the map type coming out.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, that the Reaper ban with the Zarya ban coming through is maybe a little bit surprising here, potentially opening things up for EIG scouts to move away from that D.Va and over onto the Winston. He definitely isn't getting as much playtime as even the other option of the dive tank being that Wrecking Ball, but having the Reaper off the field will make things a little bit easier for that monkey friend. Now, taking a look over at the comps here, Emerald Eagles, Makasaki and Eclipse on that DPS missed, and they missed the tank here, and then Praise, Dazai, and Fluky on those support roles. So interesting to see. These are, of course, just preferred heroes. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get to see them, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do end up with a couple of those heroes on the screen at some point.
Likewise, for EIG Scouts, as your DPS, you've got Unknown Space and KJ the Reppin. For your tank, it is No, hovering a Wrecking Ball potentially here, and Gethsemane and Toothless for your support line. Again, as Rain mentioned, none of this is a guarantee, it's just what they're favoring coming into this here, but could indicate some of these compositions further down the line in the series. I feel like the further we get into a series, the harder the fight gets, and the more difficult things are for you, the more your back is up against a wall, you really tend to default back to those more comfortable hero picks. These teams love to play what feels most natural to them instead of having to stick to these, necessarily meta picks, these meta compositions here. It's one of the things that I think is a massive upside of especially these divisions here like Diamond, where they don't necessarily need to run the most top tier meta pick just to make something work.
Yep, I'm thinking the exact same thing. If we're gonna see like comfort picks kind of come out, usually it is going to be in these kind of lower ranked tiers. So, so far looking like we might get a little bit of a shake up here. Mist has the Orisa Hover. It looks like she is going to be coming out of spawn on that. Eclipse over on the Sombra as well. EIG Scouts going for the double Ven composition here. Not too often that we see that Venture and the Vendetta paired together, and they're gonna have No over on the Mauga here. So this is incredible burst potential if they can find a target to rush onto.
Oh, I love to see these compositions here. It's one of the best things about the Diamond division. Mist here on this Orisa could play extra spoiler to No-No's Mauga, but of course not too troubled whatsoever as long as you can fire those miniguns and cleave away here. KJ taking down Masagaki on that high ground. Ash not having too much effect against the massive blade coming through here from that Vendetta, but the Orisa has a thing or two to say about that diving sword hero, so KJ has to get all the way back to the rest of the roster here. No and Unknown Space all having to back off, faring very low here for EIG Scouts, but Emerald Eagles look as though they're maintaining first control.
Yeah, this is the nice thing about playing this Orisa, is if Emerald Eagles can sustain through that initial dive in, Orisa's gonna have a pretty good time kind of fighting into this Mauga. Not only the Javelin to keep the Mauga a little bit distant, but that Spear Spin is going to eat up a lot of Mauga's damage, which does translate into less of that self-healing for that tank. So good percentage being built here for Emerald Eagles, and I like this angle that Eclipse has on the side.
Yeah, a lot is being asked of Mist to deal with all of these heroes at once, but she's managing just fine for now. Unknown Space falls down that Venture, the first casualty of this re-engage here for EIG Scouts. Everyone else has to play a bit more carefully here. Losing Masagaki yet again. This Ashe is a sitting duck against this composition here. No, feeling the bit of a sting from the hack coming out here from Eclipse. This Sombra already building up very heavily towards that EMP, but first the Sound Mirror out from Fluky to keep the team alive and sustained on the objective here. Into the Terra Surge out from Mist. Everyone gets away just in time. Very slippery composition from EIG Scouts, so not at all a tall order to get out of dodge from a Terra Surge. And on the back of their own Sound Barrier here from Gethsemane, that is going to be, I think once they clear off the last straggler from the point, a retake for EIG Scouts.
Great beat there from Gethsemane. She had me a little bit nervous, very, very low HP, but she did manage to get that beat off, and having that later beat really did help EIG stay alive in this, and only had to commit that ultimate into it, and you're building up to the Sundering Blade. You don't have to worry about cutting through anything, because even if the barrier was available, the Lucio not going to be able to save things through, but you do have to be very aware of this EMP that's coming online for Eclipse, because you don't have a whole lot to respond with.
Yeah, Unknown Space, once again, under a ton of pressure, has to back away. Suzu expended by Toothless just to keep the team safe here in the face of all this pressure coming out here from Emerald Eagles. Mist has to back away, but Fluky is the one to get caught out by No-No's overrun, taken down by that Mauga. It is Eclipse going for it. The EMP lays through heavily, falling down one by one. It is going to be both that Vendetta alongside that Lucio, so Emerald Eagles just need to keep running forward here and take down this Mauga, and the point is theirs once again. Mist finally does so.
Really great re-engage here from Emerald Eagles. They like the commitment of that Kitsune Rush. It is going to put them at a bit of a disadvantage where they also had to commit that EMP in. Canceled out the cage from No-No though, so that is good value. You really need Masagaki to build up to this mob. That is going to be the closest ult online, and you're going to have to withstand some really big ultimates coming in from EIG, including both those DPS ultimates.
Yeah, but Emerald Eagles are marking the approach constantly here. You've got Eclipse feeding full information back to the rest of the squad here. Oh, they're going fast and going loud. The rush coming out here from Toothless. Everyone else diving directly onto the objective. Suzu expended from Praise Desire, but it's not enough to keep everyone alive here in the face of the tectonic shock out from unknown space. Everyone falling one by one here. Good use of just those 2 ults. Yes, that's heavy, but it's a clean fight win for EIG Scouts.
Yeah, really great engagement from EIG. The timing pretty much perfect to go in with the Vendetta and the Venture as No-No is going in with that Stomp. You get that second of CC over onto Emerald Eagles, and that's enough to get the point flip. But 94% here, Emerald Eagles just need 1 fight win, and they have so many tools to work with. Now, that beat, like I mentioned, it is online. It's not going to stop the Sundering Blade, though, so you're going to have to be very careful about the timing of this ultimate.
No, and Bob on the point alongside the Sound Barrier. Look, they just want to go now. They know that a single fight win is all that the Emerald Eagles need to stay alive and keep this one rolling for them to clinch things up. Sundering Blade from the top ropes, taking down Fluky. But unfortunately, as KJ lands, the rest of the squad is nowhere to be seen. So at 90%, the point will flip back for Emerald Eagles. And unless I miss my guess, no, that Lucio is going to get there. Not yet, just in time.
Ooh, Gethsemane going to trigger overtime. The EMP does come out. No-No has made his way back onto the point, but it's a stagger touch here for EIG. They're trying to keep things alive, though. Finding out the Kiriko is a good way to stay on the point.
Oh, the cage fight is rolling here for No-No. They have to make this one work. There is a chance, but unfortunately a chance is all it's going to be as long as that tank is gone here. Gethsemane back in the fight yet again. She is returning on this Lucio, of course. The run back very short here on the center of the town here on Samoa, but if you can just evict the pokes off this squad, it's really tough yet around this central pillar to actually get all the bodies taken care of. KJ has a single sliver of health left, finally getting healed back up by the rest of the supports coming back into the fight. I'm not sure if Emerald Eagles are quite aware as to exactly where this Tracer was. About to have the Pulse Bomb online, so this is honestly getting messier and messier by the second. What seemed to be a sure and done thing for Emerald Eagles might be slipping further and further out of their hands. The Sound Barrier in from Gethsemane alongside the Pulse Bomb from KJ. I don't believe what we're seeing here. Eclipse with the virus finally takes down that Lucio. Hopefully that is the thing to make it roll, but that is another Kitsune Rush laid through from by Praise Desire in this case. So EIG Scouts, they're just down to that Wrecking Ball on the objective. Toothless, I think, is just here trying to keep things going. Another Sound Barrier has hit the term. It's going to be another team right falling forward and forward here. And please, before my mind leaves me, I would love for this fight to be over once and for all. It's going to be the finish off the Wrecking Ball. Oh god, I hope so. The EMP cleans up Gethsemane. There is just a few more moments. One more body left here. The Venture, yet again, unknown space, is not built up towards another ultimate. But the Tracer returns to the point. KJ the Reppin is KJ the zipping back to the objective. And I have had quite enough. Emerald Eagles have closed this one out 100 to 90. Why?
I appreciate the gusto from EIG. Great timing on all of those heroes to get back to the point, somehow each just triggering the overtime. Unfortunately, not getting there kind of at the same time, and Emerald Eagles on this Arisa composition really just kind of set up shop on the point. It was just a matter of focusing down each target one by one from EIG. But hey, I like to see how close this has been, and I do think that the swaps that EIG made there was pretty smart, considering as you go into those overtime fights, you really do want to cause chaos. So the Wrecking Ball is not just to get the touch, it's also to really kind of get these slams in, survive forever on the point. But it is going to be back over onto the Mauga as we head over on to Beach. Interestingly, we are actually going to have Unknown over on the Onron as well, a hero that we don't get to see a whole lot here. So interested to see how this is going to work into this Mauga composition. She doesn't play necessarily as heavy of a hitter as that Venture would, but you're going to still be able to kind of set up on an angle and really try to clean up some of the kills off of the engagements of that Vendetta.
Yeah, I like the way the on-run fits into this composition here. I still think Masagaki kind of a weak spot here for Emerald Eagles. Yes, got tons of damage in at the latter stage of that first round, but didn't build up that bomb towards the third or fourth fight. Took so long, was always the initial dive target here. And yes, you do have a bit of a high ground here in the bowl that is this objective on Samoa, but it's still really tough, you know, when everyone is diving so quick around you. This composition that EIG scouts are running, don't really care too much about an Ashe poking and prodding at angles here. Of course, that chip damage from the Dynamites is massive. Fluky getting the final kill onto Nono there. Losing both tanks, though. Each team without their enormous health bar centered on the objective. So the Unknown Space is on run, trying to find the damage, but unfortunately, everyone from Emerald Eagles still alive and kicking is present and take down those dive heroes.
All right, this is a big first point cap here. Ooh, catching a little virus onto KJ. Thought that he was going to be able to hide in that corner unnoticed. Not going to happen. Fluky does have this beat ready to go. The Lucio for the side of Emerald Eagles doing a fantastic job building up these ultimates very, very quickly, way ahead of Gethsemane here. So this gives Emerald Eagles an opportunity to potentially go aggressive in this fight. They definitely have the positioning kind of working in their favor as they're trying to catch this rotation out from EIG.
Yeah, a very divey deathball composition that EIG are running right now. Emerald Eagles doing their very best, as you said, Rain, to mark the rotation. They're playing defense essentially from their own offensive side at this point. Nono falling a bit low, has to back off for a moment there, but KJ the Reppin is able to find that kill onto Fluky. No more speed available, and of course had that sound barrier online, but it turns out not to matter too much when a clutch Terra Surge like that in close quarters is, yeah, Mist coming up big in that fight.
Yeah, you love to see the Terra Surge take out the entire backline of EIG scouts there. That is really good value. Eclipse did commit the EMP into that as well, so Emerald Eagles are looking to use these support ults next. It's going to be a lot on the line here for EIG to work with, including this cage, and that EMP was used last time to kind of cancel out that cage from Nono, so you have to be careful of this cage fight now. Mist will be able to walk out of it, but the rest of Emerald Eagles cannot say the same.
Gethsemane goes for a sound barrier engage here. Oh, a well-timed javelin saves the backline for a few more moments here as Mist keeping very, careful watch of the backline. Fluky, though, falls, getting caught around in a corner, and that's a tough spot to be in against Nono's Mauga in particular. Cage fight ready. They would love to close this one out, but there's going to be a bit of a pause here, folks, while we get things sorted out. Didn't see anybody disconnecting, so we'll have to see exactly what has occurred, but yeah. Solid, first take here by Emerald Eagles already. So I think it was really effective rotations for them, despite the fact that EIG Scouts going for these crazy long plays, not really coming up big just yet.
Yeah, that's true. And this is a great start for Emerald Eagles. Like we mentioned, this team has been on a bit of a rough patch here, as we did get a notification that EIG's Vendetta did DC here, so we're gonna have to wait to get that back in the lobby here. But yeah, this is a fantastic start for Emerald Eagles, and honestly, having the DC on the side of EIG Scouts, I think we're at like 88% or something. We're very, very close to kind of last fight territory for Emerald Eagles to try and get this point cap on Beach and take their first point in the series here. So it's a good start here. I think that the long rotations for EIG are really interesting considering the composition that they're running, where usually we do have like more of kind of a frontline fast engage. This Mauga composition isn't really about kind of taking angles or getting yourself set up on it. It's really just about pressing W here. So I think that if they can kind of more lock in on that, maybe try to take a little bit less of this flank angle, they might have a better time against Emerald Eagles.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Rain. I think that you want to get that Mauga on the objective, or at the very least, right above that crest into the bowl of the point itself. You need to be able to play that point and force EIG Emerald Eagles, my goodness, to actually play on the objective itself, because they do not want to. Apart from this, they would love to avoid the direct confrontation that the Mauga forces, essentially. So yeah, here they are actually on the objective, ticking well past 90% here for Emerald Eagles as EIG Scouts. Well, they went for that rotation, and Nono was getting some serious work done, but the rush out here from Praise Dazai was perfect to save the squad in time, keeping Mist alive at a moment's notice, and the sound barrier at the very end, icing on the cake here as Fluky is able to clean things up. The Bob's still available for Masagaki if he can stay alive long enough to utilize it. The Vermilion Ascent, I think, used here for Unknown Space. That on-run goes in for the damage, but unfortunately comes up pretty short here, as again we do lose, but the Bob is still on the point. So Ashe or not, the big Omnic Butler is present. And that means that the first 2 rounds go the way of Emerald Eagles, which again, they have taken Samoa.
Yeah, this is big for them. It was quite back and forth on downtown. Oh my, Eclipse is 38-3. Also, that is incredible stuff from the Sombra. Honestly, I'm very impressed. But yeah, this beach definitely a lot less close here. I think that if we had have gone to Volcano, it might have been a different story with this Mauga composition. I do feel like these kind of close range engagements will fare better on that subpoint, but of course, not in the luck of the cards here for EIG. So this does mean that they are going to have to be in control of the map pick now. And I think that that is a good kind of a good thing to have on your side if you really want to force this Mauga composition. You have to be aware that it could possibly get banned out, but of course you don't really have a whole lot of high ground access on that comp. So if it's something that you're looking to stay with, you have to take in the topography of the map and try to work with that.
Yeah, I honestly think that there will likely be, if this becomes evident that EIG Scouts want to run this Mauga composition no matter what, no matter where. I think, though, that Emerald Eagles had the solid answer to it in the Orisa comp they rolled out with, that even if they do ban it out, because it feels like the natural, progression for this EIG Scouts composition, they could still feel pretty fine having it in play. I think it's a pretty easy answer in the Orisa. It was just kind of fortunate they were able to run out, or maybe they know their opponent that well and they understand their win conditions against them already here. But we had a clash of compositions out the gate on Samoa, and it really, landed heavily in favor of Emerald Eagles, despite the overtime heroics lasting what felt like 10 years in caster time. It must have only been a few seconds at most from EIG Scouts. That still wasn't a concerted effort, right? There were only at most 2 or 3 bodies left alive, and yes, they were building up towards those ultimates, but it was only mess, and there was no real actual synergy occurring, throughout all that time. It was just get back to the point, just trickle in, and that was the best they'd looked, all maps. So
yeah.
I would love to see a different look from them in terms of just sheer topography, right? Like, I fully agree that they need to take us somewhere that this composition, this Mauga look, really feels at home, and New Queen Street, I don't hate it for this composition.
I don't hate it either. I think that you do have some really nice kind of charge potentials on this Mauga. Go in for some pretty big slams, and there's enough angles that you don't necessarily have to be concerned about controlling them at all times, but it'll give you kind of a setup spot to collapse onto that initial engagement. I do also think that potentially EIG played that Mauga in place of the Zarya, where Eagles did ban out that Zarya, and where you're running the Vendetta and at one point the Venture as well. It really does kind of say to me that you'd really love to pair that with the Zarya. Of course, looks fine with the Mauga, but it's really that kind of OG tank that can make a big difference here. So, interested to see. They are going to be in control of the first ban here. So, this is going to either be kind of a target ban, potentially onto one of those heroes that was giving them the most trouble on the side of Emerald Eagles, or you could go for something that is potentially going to be giving you trouble if you want to move back over onto the Zarya. Maybe you want to go for a tank ban. Maybe you don't go for the Orisa ban right away, but to try and protect either like this Mauga composition, or you can even go for one of the DPS bans, honestly. I think that playing the Vendetta can be very, very strong, especially with that Zarya back in the mix. Ooh, okay. Ooh.
Ban of the Kiriko. Look, whenever these teams want to take such a massive chess piece off the board, getting it out of both their hands, Kiriko is, again, one of those heroes that has been, stuck deep in the metagame since her launch, since her release, since Overwatch 2 was made and now is Overwatch 1 again. Kiriko is ever present. She is always there. I love when a team bans out a hero like that. That really tells me you've got your own niche pocket strategy you want to work with here, and those cleanses and that flexibility that a Kiriko has are a bit anathemic to your own plan. And I think you're absolutely right, Rain, in that we were seeing essentially what was a Zarya composition sans Zarya on Samoa there from EIG Scouts. So yeah, you're going to have access to that for the rest of the series if that is truly the name of the game for you. And getting rid of the Cassidy here, that is a solid ban as well. I mean, if you're going to run the Zarya comp, you're not going to be running that Cassidy, generally speaking, right? But if you're planning to run some divers yourself and you do not want to risk that swap coming in just to harsh your mellow later on down the line, I think that's a solid ban as well. It really indicates more what you're looking to play yourself.
Okay, every time I see a Kiriko ban come out, I'm immediately thinking about the Suzu and what does the Suzu really deny? I've been seeing a little bit more Junker Queen make an appearance into some maps where I didn't necessarily expect to see her. Once upon a time, it was really just kind of these Flashpoint maps where Junker Queen was really showing up, but even yesterday, got to see some Junker Queen on control maps. Maybe on a push map as well. I do think that there is a potential for it, and if you don't have that Suzu in the mix, those rampages can be deadly, especially I think on New Queen Street, where a lot of the push for the bots, it's in a very, very long, very flat straight line. I'm thinking on either side of the train, kind of towards the central park here. So this is very interesting, and yeah, that cast ban really going to deny a lot of the anti-dive potential here. Maybe open things up for Tracer to have a little bit more freedom here. So I'm interested to see what we'll end up on, because yeah, like you said, Kiriko is a staple, so you got to really be cooking something up to take that out.
Yeah, and again, I love getting to see when these teams are really playing that game, when they have their own pocket meta strategy they want to work with here. A couple of swaps coming through for the side of Emerald Eagles. So that's going to be, I believe, Mist is moving in. Yeah, so that's going to be, let me look at this more closely. Novo's coming in for Mist, and Masagaki, who was DPS, is moving over to tank instead. So everyone else staying the same here. Masagaki highlighting that Reinhardt as a favorite tank pick, and Novo highlighting the Reaper as well. Again, that was banned out in the first map. EIG scouts could have been reading that as a known quantity here on the side of Emerald Eagles, which would be why, of course, you were not playing Novo on Samoa.
Ooh, interesting. I always am curious. You know, DPS swaps in. Okay, usually there's a little bit more kind of flexibility to it, but seeing like a tank swap come in, that really does signal to me there's something cooking here in terms of a pivot in the type of composition that we were playing. So Mist, of course, was over on that Orisa, and I thought she did a very good job kind of just surviving, living, and using cooldown super effectively. So bringing Masagaki over on to this tank, very interested to see what we're going to end up on. Of course, yeah, no Kiriko, no Cassidy, but it was the Cassidy that was banned out on the side of Eagles. So let's see, yes, take a look. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Junker Queen. See, I was thinking the Junker Queen on the side of EIG Scouts, where they banned out the Kiriko. So this is really interesting. I mean, the doors haven't opened yet, so they could change things around, but this is a very weird composition.
It's all right. We have 3 more seconds to see exactly what it's gonna come out with. No, it's these compositions. Rain, you're absolutely right. These are some weird looks from these teams, but I like it until I start hating it. So let's see exactly how it works for them. Fluky's still spinning everybody around them on the Lucio instead, but Praise Dazai is going to be on this Zenyatta. So in combo with Masagaki's Junker Queen, and Nono, of course, here on the side of Scouts is on that Zarya, as we sort of speculated on, no longer the Mauga instead. KJ, of course, once again going to be on that Vendetta. But the Pharah here for Unknown Space is an also interesting pick here. Eclipse still on this Sombra. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this Sombra banned later on in the series if the EIG Scouts find themselves very much facing down the barrel of a third map, unless in their favor. But KJ feeling fully unleashed on this Vendetta with those Zarya bubbles, not even needing them every single time, but it's certainly a boon to have in your back pocket. Taking down the opponent tank, yeah, that's just Vendetta things.
It really is. That overhead slash just does so much damage here. And yeah, EIG looking very, very comfortable now that they have Nono back over onto this Zarya. But yeah, you push a little bit too far and you will get punished. Now, it's a nice trade that comes out here. It is going to be some progress on the bot here for EIG Scouts. Going to go ahead, pick up the lead. There's a lot of poke potential between this Iyari and the Pharah, but then you also have that really heavy hit between the Vendetta and the Zarya. So I really do think that Praise is going to have a really hard time staying alive on this end.
Yeah, certainly have to be very conscious of your rotations. You're relying on that Lucio to get you out of trouble, but more likely than not, you're going to get yourself into it at certain points here. Gethsemane on this Iyari. You haven't called out just yet, but really providing so much damage here. Of course, the healing from the pylon is massive, but has gotten multiple final blows already in these early fights here. And Toothless on this Juno, and she's no slouch either. Really solid work here from EIG Scouts. They've not really stopped moving this barricade.
they really look like a different team here now that they have this Zarya. I was concerned about the Juno Iari backline. We really do not see this, but Yosemite is getting work done on this Iari. She's essentially marking Eclipse, which is very hard to do as a support here, as Emerald Eagles are going to make some swaps. So Novo over onto that Reaper, and Masagaki gonna pull out a Mauga of his own. Fluky off of the Lucio, so no more speed for this team, but they are gonna have that consistent healing in the map.
Look, I agree that some swaps needed to happen here for Emerald Eagles, but it's a really tough spot to be in considering that initial checkpoint has been unlocked here for EIG Scouts, but finding these kills at the end of this fight. Alright, so it turns out it might have been just in time. Yes, the forward spawns are present for at least a few moments longer here. We'll see if a split spawn is possible. No, it looks like they're probably all going to come back at exactly the right place and time. So yeah, unknown space here on this Pharah. Plenty of ults here. In fact, every ult for EIG Scouts. Emerald Eagles down their Sombra. That's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, that's the only ultimate on the board here for Emerald Eagles. They're gonna have to try and get some of these ults out of EIG and try and just build up some of your own right now, because it's not looking like a fight win this time.
Now, Novo on this Reaper has to look every which way just to stay alive. That is a horrible spot to be in. Oh, we mentioned earlier that Zenyatta is going to have a really tough time against this EIG Scouts composition, and we just have to watch Praise sit there forlornly getting blown to pieces in the midst of that grab.
Oh, very unfortunate for Emerald Eagles, especially because EIG Scout's very economical in that. We just see the Captive Sun Grav combo come out. Both these DPS ults still lurking here, and with Novo off of that Soldier 76, there's going to be a lot less pressure on this Pharah. That means it's going to be a little bit easier to get yourself positioned for this barrage.
Yeah, I mean, the Reaper, yes, you can more easily chunk down the massive health bar of this, of this Zarya and take through those bubbles as well that she provides, but you're still under so much pressure from all possible angles, and again, your backline is not terribly mobile here. You've got the verticality that Fluky provides on that Baptiste, but that's kind of it here. Zenyatta doesn't even have the benefit of the speed boost of a Lucio to get around safely now. Does manage to get the kill onto KJ, so yeah, at the 11th hour, there is still plenty of damage possibility, still a very solid hero for this player, but it's really tough stuff here, getting a win by the skin of your teeth.
Yeah, and it's really hard to chain together these wins. So far, Eagles haven't really been able to do it, but they have 4 ults going into this next fight. Asagaki has made another swap on this tank roll, so over onto the Domina now. You're going to be able to put out a whole massive amount of poke damage, and I don't hate it up against the composition that EIG is running, because you don't have to necessarily be concerned about the speed. You do have to be worried about an orbital array.
Yeah, somebody needs to be marking KJ here. That is going to be Barrage from the top rope, but that is a masterful transcendence here by Praise. The Amplification Matrix also utilized here. Fluky trying to keep everyone alive and kicking, but also tons of damage coming through, taking that far out of the skies. Toothless soon to follow. An expenditure of 3 ultimates there. It's a heavy investment, but you need to find some progress here for Emerald Eagles. You cannot fall into this war of attrition.
Yeah, so true, and they are going to be able to pick up this forward spawn. Now, there is going to be a slight pause here as the bot gets ready to keep moving forward. EIG are going to have an opportunity now to come in and try and stop this lead from being gained. They don't have any ults to work with, and you're going to be walking straight into a Blossom.
Yeah, KJ cleaning things up here, has all the bubbles he could possibly want, but that Discord Orb does so much work, and Novo in the back line. Never mind what that Vendetta is up to, it's going to be a team kill, and Novo knows that that is a solid cleanup from that Death Blossom, and on top of that, the lead gained here for Emerald Eagles.
Okay, they have really found their groove now. Took a little bit of swapping around before they figured out the composition that was really going to work for them, but making some good progress here. However, this next fight is going to be tough for them. They are not close to getting any of these ultimates. You're not even going to get them in the late fight, and you're going to have to be very worried about this Captive Sun that's coming online, and plus both those DPS ults for EIG are going to be coming online in this later fight, so you might need to go for a disengage here if you're the Eagles.
Eclipse gets massive work done, taking down Toothless early on here, nowhere close to that orbital array, and is not going to be for quite some time left here. But that Captive Sun from Gethsemane going up high in the sky gets taken down by Praise the back end of this fight. But I think you still have to favor not only the close respawns, but also the damage potential. Never mind, Eclipse is here as long as you've got this Sombra in the fight, who also crucially is holding on to this EMP, an absolute fight-winning ultimate here. But again, have to back off. Can only do so much, can actually maintain a presence on the objective as that Sombra.
Really nice amount of damage coming through from Emerald Eagles. They weren't close to building up to these ultimates, but they disengage from the fight. They get enough damage done, and now they're gonna have 4 ults to work with for this next one. Both those DPS ults ready to go, but it seems that Unknown Space is having a hard time kind of getting up close and personal. A lot of poke damage coming onto this fire before you can get close enough for this barrage.
Oh, directly into the face of that Dominus shield. You're counting on those initial blasts to take it down, but again, just engaging at such low health, you said it, Rain. So tough to actually find those inroads for this Pharah through that skyline. So, tough spot to beat here. EIG Scouts, I mean, I have to imagine they're somewhat spluttering, not really sure exactly what went wrong in terms of their composition. It was going so well to start.
It was, and now the swaps are coming through for EIG. It's off of the Pharah. KJ is going to have the Echo, so still some airspace, but Novo absolutely shutting down any thought of a counter Reaper.
That is the EMP laid through from Eclipse. EIG Scouts' health bars dwindle in the face of that pressure, but the Panopticon here from Nono gets some work done on Defluki, but that is where the buck stops, trying to take down a Toothless on the objective, and we may be about to witness a full cap here, Rain. This is last-minute touches coming through from EIG Scouts, and with 2 minutes left, nope, just kidding, the touch is still here. We are not done just yet. Nono back on this Doomfist, but that is going to be short-lived at best. If we can really get the cleanup here at the very end, Eclipse should be the perfect kryptonite for this Doomfist, but Nono's done a good job staying alive for a few moments longer than certainly expected here. The orbital ray from Toothless will also keep them sustained for even longer than that, so yep, never mind me. We were about to see a full cap here, but no, the swaps were just enough, and that one ult was plenty. Eclipse still finding a kill on Toothless at the end. You're not going to get very far without one of your supports.
No, and Praise is going to take down Unknown as well. Now, Nono has moved back over onto the Dominant. Nice kill trade coming through. Now, EIG really need to try and make some progress here. You really cannot count this team out until that bot has incredibly stopped moving at the end here. Very much determination from this team. Coalescence ready to go here from Gethsemane. Interesting to try and use this ultimate. Honestly, she could really just go for the target onto the support. Just go full DPS Moira at this point. You're going to have to be very concerned about this EMP that Eclipse has online. And Emerald Eagles, everybody got that forward spawn, so you can go for the early fight.
That's the EMP. Eclipse has been so clean at shutting down fights with this single ultimate, and this time is no different. They lose Fluky, but what else is new? Everyone else alive and kicking. With a full team kill to their name and under a minute to go, the bot handily in their favor, even if EIG Scouts get it once again in their own hands. That's a long run back to bot.
Oh, it really is. And Emerald Eagles have been doing a really good job kind of disengaging from some of these initial fights that EIG are putting out here. Very nice to see from a team that doesn't have any speed. Praised has this Transcendence ready to go. Could be crucial to live through this Echo duplicate, but Descend now taken out.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially a guaranteed fight win here for EIG Scouts, unless I much miss my mark. Nono finding another kill on the back end of that one. Eclipse falling down has to spell disaster for the remaining members of Emerald Eagles. But again, if you can just linger on the bot here, burn more and more time off the clock, that is free time and free anti-push for your squad.
That's such a good point, Rags, especially because Emerald Eagles didn't commit any ults into that, so they're gonna have 4 ults ready to go for this last one. Kudos to EIG, though, for also holding on to this Panopticon and the duplicate here, so this overtime fight is definitely going to be a banger here. It's really gonna come down to this Transcendence from Praise. It could pretty much save Emerald Eagles from the entire ultimate of EIG, save for that Panopticon.
3 ults to 4. We'll see who comes out when the dust settles. That is going to be the Death Blossom into the Amplification Matrix on top of the Panopticon, and make that another one for good measure as Masagaki is being sustained by that Transcendence out here from Praise. But we are still losing bodies here. Novo is falling, but Praise is going so low and eventually gets taken down. KJ has sights set directly onto that Zenyatta. As long as this Echo is in the fight and Nono's still kicking, this push is still running here for EIG Scouts. We're in overtime, but hey, anything is possible in these latter stages of the map.
So true, especially push maps notorious for this, and great job from Unknown to hold onto this Death Blossom. KJ going for the duplicate over onto the Domina also really helped EIG. Having a second shield and a second kind of tank just taking up attention on the field, very important. But now if Emerald Eagle just play a little bit slow, build up to this EMP, this could spell the end for EIG.
Eclipse has been the fight winner so many cases already in these first 2 maps. It's the EMP, it is pulled, damage laid through, Nono falls, Unknown with the Death Blossom, only takes down Eclipse and falls in equal measure. The Coalescence from Gethsemane utilized once again, trying to find a single pick-off, trying to stay alive on the objective, but trying is all she's going to get with a pirouette of sadness. That is going to be the Moira falling at the barricade, and despite some last-minute heroics, it is not to be here in the second map of the series. Emerald Eagles will take it and go to match point.
fantastic showing from this team. I mean, look, I didn't get to see them play too many other of their matches, but definitely seems like this team has locked in. They wanted to get these match wins as we're getting into the end of the season here. Amazing stuff from Fluky. Taking the Vendetta straight out of the sky, that is very, very risky, but the gamble does pay off that time. So fantastic stuff for Emerald Eagles to put themselves at a match point now.
Yeah, I mean, they've been looking really good, and yes, there was a lot of difficulty, you know, at the earlier stages of New Queen Street, but once they made those swaps rain, it was like a switch was flipped here for Emerald Eagles, which honestly, I love to see out of these teams. It really shows that they have a good read of their own win conditions. They know not to stick to things too long if their composition just is not playing into their opponent's hands well enough, and so yeah, swapping over to and even the first change worked only for a little while. Then they had to make some further swaps there onto that Domina composition, which turned out to be the actual answer they were looking for the entire time. And yeah, in theory, on push, that comp shouldn't necessarily work, right? The Baptiste alongside the Zenyatta, the double flex, all damage, no movement. It shouldn't, but it was able to be facilitated by Eclipse on that Sombra. Really the hero of that map. Honestly, incredibly impressive stuff. The EMPs, yes, were massive, but finding those assassinations, dueling with the Vendettas unscathed, really scary stuff from a Sombra.
Yeah, Eclipse did a really good job kind of taking attention away from the backline, really putting pressure onto the DPS of EIG scouts, and that allowed for this double flex support to actually work on, you know, a massive map where you really usually have some movement. As well, we know where we're going for map number 3, straight into Flashpoint, New Junk City, another map where you're probably going to want to have some movement capabilities, and we saw so many different compositions from both of these teams, and as we head into New Junk City, I think that it does open up the board for some more of that Zarya, some more potentially Domina. Probably not going to see too much of that D.Va, which we kind of speculated at the start of this that we would be seeing some D.Va, but of course, Diamond Division is going to find value in the heroes that they are the most comfortable on, and right now it feels like Emerald Eagles just have a bit more depth in those comfort heroes.
I mean, Rain, you called the Junker Queen coming into New Queen Street, and we saw her for a little bit. Unfortunately, not long as I would like, but hey, if you want to make a remount of that hero, this is the place and time to do it. You get that sweet lore buff of being in her home turf, a very real thing, I am assured by all these teams, but no, that is certainly an option coming into New Junk City if you want to keep running these, I don't even want to say oddballs, just these niche comps, I think is the best way to make it run here. And I think if I'm EIG Scouts, I want to ban out that Sombra because they're, yep, that's exactly right. Thank you for reading that room, EIG Scouts. So it's not as if that was the only win condition here for Emerald Eagles in the first 2 maps, but she was kind of the heavy lift all the way through.
Yeah, the consistent kind of pressure that was put out by Eclipse on that Sombra, just really reliable, and it's every fight you have to be aware that that Sombra is going to be lurking out somewhere. The Cassidy ban over on New Queen Street also really enabling Eclipse to play that Sombra where you don't have to be worried about, you know, getting hindered and then headshot out of your invisibility. So Emerald Eagles are not going to be able to ban out a DPS. They are going to have to lean towards either the tank or the support role here, just to see what they're going to go with, and he's going to be the Lucio. So this is interesting. 2 maps in a row, we are getting some very impactful support bans out from these 2 teams.
They said we are going slow. Now everyone enjoy that. We're all going to play lovely on this composition. Although that being said, the Juno was a favorite support pick of EIG Scouts there on New Queen Street, and even certain points, no, it's like just New Queen Street there. Kind of a cornerstone of that composition they were running. So I think that makes total sense here for... It makes sense for EIG Scouts to ban it out, but Emerald Eagles, I guess they also want to run their own. If they're going to stick with the double flex support backline, then yeah, I guess you don't need it. And if you're expecting that EIG Scouts prefer to run that as opposed to the Juno and only did the Juno because it was push instead, you can go over in circles in your head about this, but I think that is what we're seeing here is more double flex from Emerald Eagles.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I don't hate it, because yeah, it did work for them out on New Queen Street, but you aren't going to have this Sombra in the mix here. Now, if we see a Tracer make an appearance, you can still kind of fill that same position of taking pressure off of your supports by really taking those kind of duels and controlling the angle as that Tracer, as the Sombra would do, and Eclipse was doing a really good job of on New Queen Street and on Samoa. But you're still gonna have a very, very wide open map here. This is a lot bigger and a lot more angles than New Queen Street. It's not gonna be as telegraphed in the rotations either, so it might actually kind of favor running a little bit slower, but only if you are not up against one of those heroes that's going to be able to scout out your rotation.
Yeah, okay, so there's been some changes here for Emerald Eagles. We have some swaps. Again, it's not just players, it is full roles being changed out here instead. Masagaki going from tank back to DPS, Mist back in, she'll be on your tank line. And Eclipse, as Sombra is no longer an option, is playing support instead. So I guess the ban worked here for EIG scouts, so well done you. You've caused chaos in the ranks, or maybe this style of adjustment of your roster is kind of another day at the office here for Emerald Eagles.
It's really just so impressive that each individual player can play so many heroes, not just in their role, but on other roles as well. It can be sometimes a little bit of a hindrance, I think, to be swapping kind of between roles in the middle of a match, but so far, Emerald Eagles haven't been slowed down by it. I do like seeing Mist coming back in, maybe going to get to see this Orisa. I think that could pair nicely with a little bit more of this slower style that they are going for. But having Eclipse move over onto the support, it makes me question if we are still going to end up on that double flex. Did have the Baptiste hovered, so I do definitely think it's possible. And I never hate to see a DPS player over on the flex support because you know that they are still going to be looking for those limbs.
Yeah, and again, we essentially know here, guaranteed based on the bans, this is going to be a double flex look here, at least for the side of Emerald Eagles. And yeah, Sans Sombra, I'm a little worried here for those self-same Eagles. Is this going to be where the comp starts to crumble, or is that just one tool gone from the tool belt? Plenty more to fill its place right now. Hovers in the spawn doors, a few more seconds left for the roll out, and we actually get the confirmed compositions here. Yeah, Mist on the Orisa makes total sense. Eclipse on the Moira, and praised once again on that Zenyatta. But it is the Reaper and 76 out here for Emerald Eagles, whereas for EIG Scouts, kind of what's expected. However, instead of that Zarya, they actually do want to run this Malga with intention here.
Okay, if they can hit fast, it's going to be great, but otherwise, Nono is going to get absolutely melted by this Zenyatta and this Reaper, so there could be changes afoot here once EIG realize what they're up against.
The first change is Unknown, getting sent back to the spawn room, and Nono following shortly thereafter with a swift boot from the Zenyatta. I would expect to see a healthy and swift swap here. The point is only just unlocked, and here we have it. Emerald Eagles planting their flag on there initially. Nono currently still sticking on that Malga. Yep, they're going to keep running this comp down. KJ on this Reaper. Yeah, so this is what they want to run. They want to make it work here, but I think you're absolutely right. I think Mist answering, this front line is massive here for Emerald Eagles.
Yeah, they're gonna have a lot of sustain in this this Orisa, and I do think that Nono can play on this Malga, but you really gotta bait out this Discord Orb. So we see actually very nice playthrough, but unfortunately already losing Gethsemane here, and she's the speed, she's the go button for EIG.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no one to hide behind, right? You can obviously put yourself behind the Malga's bulk, but in the face of that Discord Orb, and of course those shotguns, and, never mind the massive consistent damage that Orisa, that Moira, and that Soldier 76 can put out here, and Nono just kind of evaporates when these fights kick off the second that he's out in the open here. Gethsemane finding that first kill, though. Mist goes in a little bit too deep, gets caught out. This is massive here for EIG Scouts. This could be that easy fight flip they've needed, and they need it now, considering that we are well past 80% here for Arena for Emerald Eagles.
Yeah, it's gonna be, the slam in. Yeah, that is gonna be EIG claiming some percentage here. A lot for Emerald Eagles to work with, though, coming back into this, and they only need that one fight win. Ooh, nice late kill, though. This is gonna really help EIG get a little bit more control over this arena. Are gonna have this coalescence to work with, but otherwise, a lot of these fights are going so quickly, either EIG losing out very quickly or winning out very quickly, so they haven't really been able to build up too much else. And Emerald Eagles, on the other hand, yeah, so much for them to work with here. Novo really isn't going to be contested very much on this angle if you can just kind of find your way around this Malga.
An early coalescence here from Toothless. Oh, she gets that kill onto Praise. That is a massive opening here for the side of EIG Scouts, and then cleaning up Nova on the back end of that. Yeah, I mean, you only have to spend one ult, your only one that you had available, but that allows you to slowly build up towards these next ults here in this next engagement. You do lose KJ, but taking down Masagaki later in that fight, that you'll take that trade any day of the week for Scouts.
Yeah, and I don't know that it's not going to be a clean fight here for Emerald Eagles to come back in, but they are positioned underneath. They want to go for the recontest, but they might have just been caught off guard.
Yeah, tough spot to be in for sure, but you already have the soldier on the objective there, and of course that Transcendence from Praise able to lock them down on the objective here, finding the kills onto Gethsemane and Unknown. No short to follow, spending with this Coalescence here. Eclipse can afford to utilize this as, of course, the ult comes back quick as you like for any more with their assault, and Eclipse is already proving himself to be more than up to the task.
Yep, there we go. First point on the board here for Emerald Eagles. Not a whole lot expended there by EIG. They got a lot of ults out, at least for Emerald Eagles, so they'll have an advantage coming into this next one. We're heading over on to Junkyard here, and it is going to be the position above this garage taken by Novo on this soldier. That's exactly where you want to be, where you have this kind of mid to long range damage.
I mean, you can see so clearly, No spotting out this Zenyatta. Praise gets taken down. That on-round here from Unknown, finding those sneaky pick-off kills. You love to see that coming through. A variation on Genji that on-round is, but still the burst potential is kind of massive here, especially when you factor in that burn damage can tick so quickly on these lower health targets.
Yeah, I like that combo. A nice little angle there from Unknown to follow up on the stomp from Nono. And that's really what we need to see mostly from EIG is a lot more of this consistent engagement onto the slams. Nono is hitting targets with the slam. It's just a matter of having your DPS in position to follow up with it. It's just a moment of CC, so you have to be able to capitalize on that. Excellent for them to hold on to both these DPS ults and that Cage as well. Potentially a blender combo coming in between this Blossom and this Cage. And again, Mist is going to be able to avoid this, but nobody else from Emerald can.
No, and the positioning is really tough too, considering you're already past 50% here for EIG Scouts on the objective. The Terra Surge laid through from Mist, but it looks like she's the only one to live through that blender there, as we were talking about. Yeah, that is both the Vermilion Ascent and the Cage fight spent here for EIG Scouts. So 2 for the price of you get everybody killed for Emerald Eagles, you'll take that.
Okay, Vermilion, Ascent, and Cage. Maybe I'm gonna call that the air fryer instead of the blender. I'm really just pushing the kitchen utensils here. But last fight here, as it is gonna be Emerald Eagles getting a touch on the point. They do have the Transcendence to work with.
No, but they've already lost Novo on the approach and Eclipse shortly thereafter, who is now on this Ana. So yeah, we've had swaps here from Emerald Eagles, but unfortunately it might have just come at the wrong time in terms of getting any hope of recontesting the objective here. It looks as though Junkyard is going to belong to EIG Scouts, and we are all tied up on New Junk City.
Yeah, and that looked very clean for EIG. Once they got in control of this, they did a fantastic job controlling the choke points and making nice rotations onto wherever Emerald Eagles was looking to push. Big swap coming out here for Emerald Eagles, though. Nova is over on the Cassidy, and Masagaki's going to go over onto the Bastion. Eclipse on this Ana as well. No Kiriko in the mix here for EIG, so Nono is going to have an even tougher time on this Mauga. If the Discord orb wasn't enough to dissuade you, maybe the anti-nade will.
And Emerald Eagles have had enough of this Mauga and all of the shenanigans that enable him, so they need to clean these fights up fast and loud here, considering all they have right now is this Transcendence. They're about to have a nano boost if Eclipse can be kept alive, and it is going to be. Praise keeping everybody sustained here with that Zenyatta ultimate, so excellent timing, excellent sustain, cleaning up both the Onron and now the Mauga as well. That's got to put you in an excellent position to actually get this one rolling here. Good spear from the high ground, sending KJ to join everyone else down on the objective proper. We are losing bodies here. Ooh, the orbital raid committed from Gethsemane. I think she thought they were going to be able to sustain a little bit better through this fight, but unfortunately she's the only one left alive on the point, and that is going to be, once we wipe up, I think that is, yeah, that's Unknown here on the on-run back onto the objective. I say on how many times fast, with another ultimate ready in the bank. If we can't clean up this, yeah, very well done here. Finally, but the point is still not been kept. Oh, Miss left the objective, and there's no cap here for Emerald Eagles. Oh no, it's all gone wrong.
Oh, not even a little percentage on the board for Emerald Eagles. And yeah, the orbital ray maybe throwing a little bit of chaos into the fight here. Emerald Eagles end up getting fairly split, even though EIG don't necessarily benefit directly from that orbital ray. Definitely did cause a little bit of panic there, and that panic was capitalized on. EIG, Nono got back into that fight, took out a support on the way. Masagaki, forget about the Bastion, wasn't working out. Moves over onto the M right now, very consistent burst damage, and that is a great first pick here for Eagles.
Yeah, that's exactly what you need to see coming out the gate here. Shut down KJ before you can get another of those Death Blossoms ready. As I said, of course, Nono charges directly on top of Novo. That's a fun thing for a caster to worry about, but it missed here with this Terror Surge, taking down Unknown Space, who decided she's not quite done with this fight. They would like to get back in this engagement, this on-run, ready to go for another round, and Praise is the one to lay down the beat down this time. Unknown falls. He is going to think about what he has done, and finally, this point, which should have been theirs to begin with, is now ticking up for Emerald Eagles.
All right, 67% for EIG. They're going to have that cage fight ready. Novo back over onto the Soldier 76. This Transcendence from Frey is going to be very, very important here. You are going to have that Blender, the cage fight, and the Blossom coming online shortly. Emerald Eagles have an opportunity to just play a little bit more split now, but nope, they are all standing very close together.
Yep, and that is Novo evaporated on impact there. Toothless doing the final blow, but so much work coming through, and that is the Blender Evisceration coming in. Unfortunately, you eat a bit of a javelin to your frontal lobe there, and that's going to be KJ taken down. Eclipse does get lost as this fight drags on and on here, but it looks as though the rest of Emerald Eagles are alive and kicking, now going down to the objective here. But once again, Unknown was the X factor in this last fight, able to stay alive for far longer than he ought to have. This time, however, is not going to sustain throughout it. Gethsemane finds that kill, Miss falling. This is just one tank left on the objective here. Nono trying to lead the team to glory. And again, if they get this flip, there's really only one more fight chance here for Emerald Eagles. Eclipse finding a crit kill onto KJ, so they still want to make this one work. No, they have to wait till Mist is back.
Yeah, and then they're going to have this Nano ready to go, potentially just throw that over onto Mist. Oh, the headshots for all the supports here as Gethsemane's going to take out Masagaki, who had that override protocol. So much damage now gone for the Eagles.
Yeah, these pickoffs have been kind of insane here. A sleep and an anti-nade. They want that Mauga gone. Nono is facing so much pressure, and Novo and Miss finally able to clean up that kill. So it looks as though at long last, as long as somebody stays on the objective, this will be Emerald Eagles' point to flip. And then in just a few short seconds, there's to fully cap. Yeah, that is 2-1 to Emerald Eagles. They put themselves on map, and now series point.
One more point for them to break this loss streak. He's going to be Refinery, so it's just a short walk over from that Ducks, and they are going to have still that override protocol. Masagaki getting taken out early in the last fight might actually help out Emerald Eagles here, but there is going to be this Orbital Ray ready to go, and this Vermilion Ascent as well, so definitely some big tools in the bank here for EIG.
Yeah, they again would love to go first. They press down that gas button, but this time the answer comes through, but not loud enough here as Unknown Space takes it down. That on-run ultimate lays through, taking down Nova and Eclipse in one fell swoop. And of course, he's not done with it just here. Unknown takes out Masagaki as well. So with enough damage for the rest of the team combined, that's going to be the on-run leading the way as EIG Scouts will cap the Ducks first, or rather Refinery first. I always confuse these two. Thank goodness.
Oh, and look, gonna get some late kills as well. Praised and Missed getting taken out late there. So a little bit more percentage here for EIG to try and tie up this New Junk City and try to start a reverse sweep here in this series. Have some cage fight and Blossom coming online shortly. Still gonna have this override protocol ready to go for Masagaki on the side of Emerald Eagles. Not going to be as easy to necessarily find the targets with this. There's so much mobility between the on-run and the Reaper fade and the Moira fade and the Juno running away that you might want to try and force out some of those movement cooldowns before you go in with either of these DPS ultimates.
Energized Blender about to be online here for EIG Scouts. KJ and Nono both looking for the pick off here. They would love to section off Miss from the rest of the squad and then dive and pounce directly on those weakened targets. Terra Surge out, taking down Nono. No chance at all for a cage fight. Oh, the Blitz Blossom sped here for KJ. Gets a single kill, but the rest of the squad is pushing up daisies. And looks as though if you can finally clean up this Moira at the back end of it there, Toothless, she's able to sustain for a few months longer, builds up towards that coalescence, but the point flip comes through, and Emerald Eagles are not out of this point just yet.
Nope, one more fight here for EIG to pick up Refinery. You have some good tools to work with. You can play a little bit slower, get that Vermilion Ascent online, but Praised is once again going to have this Transcendence. It has been such a difference maker for Emerald Eagles here. Eclipse has moved off of the Ana, maybe a little bit surprising for me. I feel like those anti-nades were being very, very impactful, but you're definitely going to have more survivability in this shootout.
Yeah, Novo ready to rock here, but has so often been the target of these initial dives, and just the same this way, it's going to be the cage fight, but that Transcendence here from Praise, keeping everyone but Masagaki alive for a few moments longer here. Another on-run ultimate, that Vermilion Ascent comes up big this time once again. So much burst damage here that Unknown has been laying through. Honestly, the second half of this map has kind of been Unknown's to run away with, and now, once again, we are heading to the final point here on New Junk City.
Ooh, I am sweating here. This Unrun is so impressive. You really don't get to see her a whole lot in some of these compositions, but I'm really liking the kind of damage between not only the fire from Unrun, but then also from this Mauga. It really allows Unknown Space to do so much extra damage to Emerald Eagles, and there's no form of a cleanse that they have to try and deny that. So we are going to move over to this last point. Novo has this tac visor ready to go, but up against this orbital ray, and this time no anti-nade to cancel out its effect.
No anti-nade and no supports here for the side of Emerald Eagles. They all fall one by one, and again, no need to spend a single ultimate here for EIG Scouts. That is the best value you could possibly hope for. A team kill, and they get first control of Bomb Flats.
All right, this is really big for them to be able to, cap that without using an ult. Eclipse is going to move back over onto the Ana here. I do think it's wise. You're going to have to be very careful, of course. Going to have to play back a little bit further, but this anti-nade is going to be able to not only impact No multiple times, but also, deny entire value to this orbital ray.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough. Novo needs to find an angle here to make this tac visor work, but once again, the fight kicks off, and you've already lost both of your supports here. This is a terrifying start to this point, which again is well past 50% now here for EIG Scouts. There's some fighting happening on the objective, but it's going to amount to very little, and that's just more time in the bank of your opponents. Emerald Eagles coming into this with 2.5 ultimates, but that's going to look pretty faint praise when they can't even touch the point.
Yeah, you don't have any form of speed. You have the slowest support line out of all of the options, and KJ is lurking in this corner, knows exactly where Eagles have to pass to try and get to this point, so your supports are in even graver danger.
Mist has to be the one touch, has to get on the objective here. This Terror Surge could lock out some of these squishier targets, but they cannot even go to the rest of the squad there. She is stuck with the rest of the team fighting alone, and you have to hold down the objective there. Novo gets taken by its self-own rocket, but fortunately, the rest of the squad comes up big. And so despite spending just that tactical visor, it looks as though Emerald Eagles have stabilized and gotten themselves the first presence necessary on Bomb Flats.
Fantastic showing from Eclipse there. Spotted out KJ somehow, got the sleep dart on to the Reaper before he was able to blossom, and then the panic kind of sets in. KJ thinks that he might be able to turn things, but the thing an Ana and a Zen can do, and a slow backline, but they are very damage heavy backline, so excellent job from them to sustain through. Now you're going to have this Terra Surge from Mist to work with. Once again, there are going to be this Vermilion Ascent and Cage Fight online here, so the chance for EIG to shut this down and tie us up.
Oh, Praise knows that she's the target of so much of this damage coming in. Falls down to the immense pressure, the dive coming through from Nono, and now the cage fight into the Coalescence. That Terra Surge from Mist is doing the absolute best she can here. It might not be enough, though. At the end of the day, it looks as though the recap comes through for EIG Scouts, and no one from Emerald Eagles is alive or anywhere near in sight to actually put boots on the ground. That is the third map in the series going the way of EIG Scouts. Rain's got a series on our hands.
Very close one, going all the way to that last flashpoint on New Junk City. And Unknown Space, a massive part of EIG making their way back into this series. I really do like the combo between this Malga and the Onron. Always kind of thought about it where Onron does have that kind of extra damage if there's a target on fire. So being able to pair her with another hero that can cause even more kind of burn damage, it really does enable this Onron in a really kind of special way that you don't really see with any other hero. So I think that although there were some initial issues about kind of finding the timing of these engagements, I think that EIG started to pick it up, and once they really got rolling, it was very hard for Emerald Eagles to kind of sustain through that initial engage.
Yeah, I mean, the second that Emerald Eagles didn't have access to one of those fight-winning ultimates, there was really nothing they could do to actually defend their support line there, especially when you were on that Zenyatta and Ana. It is a very greedy backline. Yes, in theory, it's got some defensive tools, but the second those miss or go wide or are mitigated by your opposition, there's nothing to stop any of these players, especially Amalga, from just running directly on top of your Zenyatta or your Ana at that point. And I honestly fully agree with the decision for EIG Scouts to maintain their composition all the way through. I think coming out of this Malga, they had a really tough time in the first point, but once they stuck to their guns and just sort of found their rotations, they were forcing Emerald Eagles to play so many different little, ideations on this composition here, and none of them really stuck at the end of the day.
No, it was so tough. Now, we do know where we're going for map number 4. It had to be a hybrid or it had to be an escort map. We will be heading to the hybrid map of Midtown. And Emerald Eagles, taking the Lucio out of the mix on New Junk City, hinting that they wanted to play a little bit slower of a composition as we head into Midtown. We definitely have an opportunity to try and make that happen. Poke compositions abound here. Wouldn't be surprised if we do end up back over on the Domina for really either of these teams. But that's definitely something that you're going to have to keep in mind as it comes to these hero bans, because that Lucio is going to be back on the field now, and Domina can have a really, really hard time kind of withstanding if there is a really fast rush here. So Emerald Eagles are going to have to maybe go for a target onto one of those tanks that will also be a component of the rush. Maybe a ban onto the Mauga could be in order.
Yeah, I think if you really want to bring the heat here onto EIG, I think that the Amalgam is a really solid pick, especially considering that since Sombra was banned by EIG in the last map, that means she is back once again, and I see no reason why Emerald Eagles would ban her themselves. So yeah, that was them playing without Eclipse on that Sombra on Flashpoint. I don't want to make excuses for them. Of course, you have to be able to play when there's even just one hero missing from a usual composition here, but yeah, I feel like we're seeing an Emerald Eagles playing at, if not full capacity, certainly back to 95% of their power, just with the simple re-addition of Sombra to their squad. And it looks as though, yeah, we're gonna finalize our ban here in just a second. We're still getting it sorted out here, folks.
Yeah, they gotta ponder it, right? I mean, this is an opportunity for Emerald Eagles to close out this match. They only need one more. Reverse sweeps can be really hard, but, getting the beginning is going to be the toughest here, as Emerald Eagles are not gonna go for that Mauga ban, but they are gonna take out that Onrod, who looked absolutely phenomenal in the hands of Unknown, so no big surprise to me that that will be gone. And of course, that means EIG are going to have to ban out one of these tanks or one of these supports here, so just to see what they'll go for. The tanks not getting a whole lot of bans here throughout the series, which I feel like we usually see a lot more tank bans.
You're absolutely right. I think usually tank is kind of like the focal point for these bans here, but these teams feel pretty confident in dealing with each other's rosters with whatever tank they favor running here. But I think if EIG Scouts want to do it, I think now is the time to pull that break glass in case of emergency and ban out that Orisa. Yes, we saw some other looks of tank here for the side of Emerald Eagles, but nope. They want to make sure that it is not going to be missed at the helm this time. She is their go-to Orisa hero for this. So either we're going to see her play a different tank, or we're going to see those swaps coming through of roles and maybe see Masagaki once again on that Domina, which honestly would go very nicely here on Midtown.
I'm thinking the exact same thing, Rex, because Emerald Eagles have had a lot of different hero swaps in their roles here. And yeah, Masagaki did look really, really good on that Domina on New Queen Street. So I think that if you were to play Domina anywhere, Midtown would be a good place as any. We could also end up with some really interesting backlines as well. We've been kind of talking about this double flex support backline that Emerald Eagles has been opting towards. EIG also, of course, did run the Iari as well, and I think that Midtown is a really good place to try and bring that out. So I think that we could be seeing a lot more of these kind of greedy backline compositions as we head into this more kind of Pope favored map. But like I said, Lucio is still on the table here, so you always have to keep that in the back of your mind. The Domina could be countered out pretty quickly with that.
Yeah, the Lucio Kiriko backline of Forever Times is very much available to both of these squads here. They've proven both of them more than adept at running some of these more unorthodox or less orthodox, whichever way you prefer it, for your backlines here. Whether that is the very greedy double flex, which, as you highlighted, Rain, can be used to even more serious effect on a map like Midtown here. Substitution comes through. Mist is remaining on tank for now, as far as we can tell, but Fluky is back in. This time, no longer. I mean, that might be a role swap here. We'll see when the dust settles exactly how that's going to pan out. Because I think it'd be kind of insane for Eclipse to stay on support when Sombra is once again available to this team. Oh no, love it. Thank you so much. Then yeah, this is kind of crazy of them that Eclipse is going to be staying on the support line. I want to be nicer about it, but I guess, I mean, is Fluky going to be running that Sombra instead? Because that was kind of the main win condition to so many of your fights on the previous maps in the series. So I think I will say I'm curious here, Rain. I think that's why I was to say that.
Yes, I think that is a good way to put it. I thought that Fluky looked really, really good on the Baptiste as well on New Queen Street, not only in putting out the healing, but doing a whole lot of damage as well. So definitely do see the potential in Fluky moving over onto this DPS, but hey, they are cooking something up over there. If they can confuse their opponents, that's going to give them a little bit of advantage. It's just a byproduct that the casters are also slightly confused by this, but heading into things, yeah, no Sombra, maybe a Hanzo. You know, he's always a potential to play the Hanzo, especially where you do typically see him more on these kind of poke type maps, usually Circuit Royale, of course, but it's not totally out of the cards. And where we are in Diamond Division, having those kind of comfort picks always going to be an option here, but we will have to see what Mist ends up playing, because yeah, we have really just been seeing her kind of on this Orisa. So I'm wondering if she maybe has a Sigma up her sleeve, or maybe she does also have the Domina to work with here, but Midtown isn't really going to allow for a good range of tanks. Yes, you can try and force a dive, but you're probably not going to see a Wrecking Ball. You're probably not going to see a Winston. And there's just the whole range of tanks that just don't really get any play time. We're not going to see Roadhog, probably. You know, maybe I'm trying to speak it into existence here, but it's always interesting to see when you have a tank that could come in that has played heroes that you know would work on the map, and you opt not to do that. You got to have a pretty good plan in place.
I mean, it could easily be the case that Masakaki was opting into that Domina because that was sort of what became necessary for the composition on New Queen Street. And it could easily be that Mist has a more than able one and is currently the usual go-to for a lot of these compositions. And just, you know, they wanted to run that Jugger Queen really badly on New Queen Street, but had to make some adjustments. So we'll see exactly what they want to roll out with here. Sans the Orisa, I'm curious as well, Rain, to see what this composition looks like here for Emerald Eagles. And again, this is a team coming into this series with many more losses to their name than wins. So even if, you know, things are looking dire here, they need to find something. They need to find that next level to put themselves at. Otherwise, it's going to be another loss to column for them, and the postseason looks that much further away.
Very, very good point. Yeah, and the Week 5 match that Emerald Eagles played was a Map 5 loss, unfortunately, for them. So they really want to try and clean this up here and now. They are not looking to take this any further than necessary, but I don't know. EIG has really, really come alive so far, and they've got some momentum building here. Looks like it is going to be missed over on the Ramatra here. I do like it. Again, still no Lucio for either of these teams. It's so interesting to see. It is going to be a Bastion on the defense here, and then Nono over on the Sigma. So definitely looking to kind of engage with this Bastion form. Mist is going to have to be very careful about deciding when she wants to walk in, because there's no speed to try and kite you out once you commit.
Yeah, the Kiriana backline for both these squads is a really solid support for both of these tank lines here, but having to worry so much about KJ at all angles here. But on the high ground, Novo finding the better of Unknown here. That Emery looking a little bit faint before the classic shooter guy here in the roster, so that is going to be Emerald Eagles. Rolling forward, they do lose Fluky. All right, so the Genji does fall. We are down a body on either side of this fight. Mist trying to find some presence here, but that point is being held on so strongly by Nono. Anti-nade comes through from Eclipse, but it washes off quick as anything here. And now we're just jockeying for position around this close hold, right? We've made it through this initial choke point here for Emerald Eagles, but there's still a lot of ground to be gained if they have a chance of actually setting foot on the objective, especially considering everybody is back in the fight here. Unknown back on this Emery, looking to build up towards this ult, but still finding so much damage here is Novo's Soldier 76, finding out yet again. Unknown on that Emery, taking down Gethsemane as well. He tries to hide behind one of those flagpoles, but not gonna do much luck. This guy can see through walls here. What hope does a single pole have to hide you? So that's gonna be San's ultimate. It looks as though Emerald Eagles are gonna roll towards the objective if they finally clean off Nono here, who does have this flux, but wisely we'll save it for a rainy day.
Novo really doing a great job on this Soldier 76, controlling the angle exactly the way that the Soldier should, and the rest of Emerald Eagles doing a good job creating the space so that Novo has that angle and is not pressured out from it, where you don't have a Tracer or a Genji or really any kind of a flanker on the side of EIG. It really just kind of falls onto Unknown and KJ to try and put pressure onto these off angles. But, ooh, again, Novo's going to find this opening pick, and that's going to allow Emerald Eagles to start pushing this payload forward without worry, and it's going to allow them to, maybe take the high ground, but a nice trade back here is going to slow things down just a little bit. Emerald Eagles are building up to this Nano Blade, but already a lot of ults in the board here for EIG to work with. This Gravitic Flux going to do a great job catching everybody from Emerald Eagles out because they're all playing around Mist on this Ramatra.
Yeah, Clip's still proving why exactly he's still on the support, just as deadly as on the DPS line. The Flux comes through, and that is alongside that Override Protocol, so 2 ults spent for a definitive end to this fight here, and that is going to shut things down even further. Fluky is just sort of hanging around that high ground, but they're going to clean up this Genji. I would really, there's no escaping here everything that EIG scouts have to bring to bear.
Yeah, good job from EIG. A nice set of combo, and you hold on to everything else here. Very restrained, and you still have control of this high ground. Emerald Eagles really do have to make a push towards this high ground. You need to get Novo set up there on this Soldier 76 before you can really start pushing this payload forward. You now have the Nano Blade to work with, and nice for pick from Eclipse.
Eclipse is uncontested right now, sniping out on the opposition. There's no one really who can answer. Gethsemane in theory would, but she's mostly busy healing up the squad here, whereas the damage is all coming from the Ana on the side of Emerald Eagles here. And you're trying to rotate through. This is a difficult spot to push the cart, but if you can just get the kills on the back end of it, on the upside, the high ground matters nothing if no one's alive to actually utilize it. So that's going to be Fluky diving directly onto everybody else. Gets slept out, but Novo's there to pick up the pieces, and that's going to be a point B cap here. 4 minutes 15 for Emerald Eagles.
This is a lot of time to work with on the third point of Midtown here, and support ult's committed into that, but the DPS have just been doing so much work for the side of Emerald Eagles that they have not even needed to pop these ultimates. Mist is going to have this Annihilation. Nono does move over onto the Zarya here, so you're going to be able to avoid that Genji deflect, but you are going to have your bubbles burn fairly quickly against this damage.
Yeah, both the Emery and the Soldier pretty fragile, so the second one finds out the other. It's just a matter of that duel and who's the first to fall, so this time it is going to be Novo falling first, Unknown getting the better of the opposition here. Looks as though EIG scouts will stabilize on the back end of this Kitsune rush, so again, crucially spending their ults very economically here. Just the one necessary is all they're going to utilize. Emerald Eagles coming into this one with 3, so they would love to shut things down early here for EIG scouts.
Yeah, very true. They have this blade ready to go. There's not really a defensive ult per se, but Gethsemane has done a very good job with these sleep darts, so you've got to be aware of this. Ana, and then also KJ with this Bastion form has the artillery strike ready to go as well, so a potential to maybe fight back.
Fluky dives the higher ground, but the Nano gets delivered directly to that Bastion and says, nope, I would like to get out of here, please. And Fluky is able to, but Novo does not have that same advantage. Oh, but unfortunately, going for the blade is able to find Unknown, but Fluky falls at the hands of Gethsemane, that bio nade. As we highlighted, Rain hitting those every day of the week. Sleeps and bios up plenty here for the side of EIG scouts. Now you're sleeping this annihilating Ramatra here, so you're having Nono back up just a little bit, and finally that ultimate will disappear anticipate here for Mist, but still in a great position for the offense from Emerald Eagles. Novo taking down Unknown Space yet again here. This duel is ongoing for these two DPS players. You can spot out, yeah, Gethsemane stuck in the subway right now. Has a really tough job of actually getting back to the rest of the squad, healing anybody or getting healed up herself. So it's going to be the artillery coming through here for KJ, spending that ultimate, not really finding anything for it. And on the back end of things, Mist has taken down with that Ravenous Vortex Nono, who has this grab ready to go. Really tough spot for the defense here. Emerald Eagles have the ults to work with. They just need to find the space.
Yeah, and they need the time as well. There's the grab out, but you're met with attack visor and the support ult still ready to go here for Emerald Eagles. Let's have them taken down though, so maybe an opportunity to stall things out. No, the touch not coming through. Unfortunately, that Emre a little too high in the sky here. Good amount of time burned off the clock here, but there is still going to be a little under 2 minutes, which is still pretty healthy on these hybrid maps, especially if we do get into that overtime, which now, if you want to do that, it's gonna have to be a map completion for EIG.
Yeah, a tall order to be sure. It's a very long map, and we saw how, long it took for Emerald Eagles to actually find their way through point A and point B. It certainly wasn't the longest push by any stretch of the imagination there, but it took a few fights to get their win behind them and certainly find some inroads there, getting through the streets phase of point B. They were kind of getting shut down so heavily there by the tank and the Bastion on that high ground, but Eclipse finding so many of those openings at all angles, and of course Novo. I honestly feel like this map is a bit of a redemption arc for Novo, who is getting picked off so early in those fights, pretty much all the way through New Junk City, but now is proving to be that go button here for Emerald Eagles on their second try of it here on Midtown instead.
Yeah, and that's so important. These hybrid maps are really a lot of pressure on your DPS to kind of pop off. Escort as well, if we do end up going into that. It is really a lot of kind of the fights falling on to, are the picks going the way of your team? How much damage is your DPS doing? And yeah, Novo really stepping up here on the defense now. They are going to have Novo over on this Bastion, and Unknown is actually going to match this Bastion on the attack as well. And for the first time in this series, we're going to get to see some D.Va here. Nono is over on that hero. I think that that's going to be super helpful against all of this poke damage that Emerald Eagles have at their disposal.
I like Mist here on this Sigma instead. I think it's a good adjustment for the defending team. Even if the Ramatra has a bit more flexibility, you need to be able to hold down this initial point here on Midtown. It's not yet payload time, so Sigma can have a great time holding ground and maintaining pressure on all of these, different angles that the offense wants to come through. So losing the mech here for Nono. We'll see if the actual kill comes through. Yeah, we're going to get a bunch of damage still put through. A stun onto Unknown, and everyone else is falling one by one here. Nono falls before you can get back into that mech, taking down KJ and Unknown as well. Yeah, so it's a solid first fight stuffed here. Emerald Eagles have plenty of room to work with. Nono gets back into the mech.
It's a little bit of an awkward pathing for Emerald Eagles to kind of walk up through the train, especially with this Mist on the Sigma, like you mentioned. You're going to be able to just bounce damage into that train. You really want to be careful about going into kind of enclosed spaces. That D.Va defense matrix only going to be able to do so much. There are some swaps here. The EIG have the Hanzo and the Genji here, the Shimada brothers, making an appearance on the attack. And then somebody's going to move over on to this Juno, so you are going to have at least a form of speed to try and get through this choke.
I love to see this EIG is putting a team together, and it looks as though it is going to get them a little bit closer to the objective this time than last. I fully agree, Rain. They need to make this, frontline presence. I think going through that subway is a tough spot to be in, and no mistake, losing KJ, though, early on here. The defense have the advantage, as well as de-meching Nono. Tough spot to be in for EIG Scouts once again, but they knew this. They made the swaps early on here. There's still plenty of time to work with. They just need to build up towards some ultimates, but yeah, burning the time off the clock is a tough spot. Nono gets back in the mech. They spend the Transcendence, so Emerald Eagles might have let that fight go a little bit longer than intended there, allowing the D.Va to sustain, but they will finally demech yet again. This time, they're cleaning her off the point.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I see the vision there. I see the vision, but not going to be able to stay alive on that D.Va here. So you get the Transcendence out at least, but there's 4 other ultimates here for Emerald Eagles to work with. And because of all these swaps that have come through for EIG, they are lagging behind a little bit. The Kitsune Rush could be a good way to kind of get in onto the point, but there's just so much that you can use to try and counter that out, whether it's going to be just the anti-nade from Eclipse, or you have this Gravitic Flux and the Artillery Strike.
Yeah, the rush comes through from Toothless, but Nono's already out of mech, and just before he had access to that Diva Bomb, no remech here for the tank, and losing your Kiriko as well, while the ult is still running. Tough spot to be in here for EIG Scouts, as Emerald Eagles, with just the expenditure of that overclock, clean up that fight with a solid team kill down to a minute for the offense.
Ooh, EIG are having 1 minute to try and keep themselves alive in this map and in this series, and they do have these DPS ults to work with, but Emerald Eagle's been so good about cycling through these ultimates. This Gravitic Flex is going to be so impactful because it's a pretty small choke point that this attacking team is going to have to walk through.
Eclipse looking for who is going to be the recipient of this nano here. It is Sigma v Sigma. No lagging so far behind in terms of ultimate, but you need to find something to work, something to go now. And despite the accretion coming through, Fluky finds that kill onto KJ, but the Dragon Strike, we've seen occasionally these Hanzos can find some sneaky picks here. It is going to be the immobile Zenyatta, the one to fall, but it looks as though everyone else on Emerald Eagle is standing tall here. Sub 10-second territory. EIG Scouts need to find some angle to get back onto the objective here. It looks as though KJ is going to be the one. Tag, you are it. It's the Tracer's turn to touch the point and completely get evaporated from said point. People trickling onto the objective here. EIG Scouts desperate touches onto the point, but unfortunately the first sweep is not to be. It all ends here. It ends like this, with a full hold on Midtown as Emerald Eagles, while they stumbled on a single map, they close it out in 3-1 fashion with their first win of the season, unless I much miss my mark.
I do believe you are right here. Yeah, 0-5, and now they get to be 1-5. It might not sound like a lot, but that is fantastic momentum here for this team in this later half of the season. Novo, very, very much coming alive on that last map, but altogether, I feel like Emerald Eagles put on a really fantastic show for us here tonight. Yes, you did end up dropping that one map, but you made New Junk City go all the way to that point number 5, so excellent showing, and definitely think that this team has been putting in the work. They have been learning from their losses, and they gotta feel pretty excited to finally get that first win on the board.
Yeah, honestly, really impressive stuff. They came out swinging at the start of the series, and they only dropped the ball a single time, and that was a tough map from top to bottom for them. So, folks, we're going to have a quick interview in just a little bit with some of our victors here. We'll figure out who that is, and we're going to get things set up. We'll be right back in just a second. All right, welcome back, everybody. We are here with the Victor's interview. We've got a couple members of Emerald Eagles for you. We've got Mist and Praise Dazai here joining us. First of all, welcome both of you to the stream and congrats on your win.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I want to kick things off here. This was kind of a crazy back and forth series. Were you guys expecting this to be as close as it was, or do you think you were going to roll over the opposition here?
I think we definitely went into it with an open mind, but also very accepting of adaptation, trying to figure out what goes right, what goes wrong, trying to fix those wrongs as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I definitely want to kind of carry off of that because we saw so many adaptations. Honestly, Emerald Eagles might be the team that I have seen the most compositions from in a really long time, including a lot of role swaps themselves. So I'm wondering, what does this look like in your scrims? Are you guys rotating on to different roles often? How many different heroes are you guys playing? And do you really kind of like try to build on that flexibility?
Crazy.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, we got quite a few people who like play like multiple roles. Like Eclipse, we like really like him playing Sombra, so he plays Sombra for a lot of the games now.
It really helps with we're very unpredictable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think we saw that in this series for sure. And having that kind of wow factor, a little bit of surprise, definitely seems like it caught off guard EIG a couple of times. Definitely want to take a look going forward. So you only have a couple of weeks left in the season. How are you going to take this win and kind of move forward with your next two matches?
Yeah, we're definitely excited to rewatch these VODs, see what we can improve for sure. It's definitely a great confidence boost as well because we've been losing a little bit. It's been a little rough recently, but this is kind of the win we need.
Yes.
That absolutely makes sense. It was so great to see y'all rise to the challenge here. And yeah, there's a bit of a stumbling block there on Flashpoint on New Junk City. Was that just due to the Sombra ban solely, or is there something that was kind of tripping you up about the way that map was running?
I think it was a lot of everything. Like me personally, I think that might be one of my weakest maps. So I know I wasn't doing that good.
I agree. I'm not a big fan of that map.
I mean, makes total sense. It is, I think, the favorite map of very few people. But before we let you go, is there anyone you want to shout out or, thanks to before we go?
Our manager, Robert.
Ooh. Yeah, that guy does a lot for us. Appreciate him.
My goat.
My goat and our players, Novo, Eclipse, Masakaki,
yes.
Our DPS. We can't do it without them. Yeah.
Love to hear it.
Oh, and Dulce.
And Dulce. We have some teammates that are not here right now.
Yeah.
So we'll hope
they're cheering us on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for joining us. Once again, congratulations on your win and best of luck with the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Look, Rags, I'm a little bit biased, but I always love to hear players give a little thanks to their manager, a little shout out to Robert. I always love to hear it, so fantastic stuff to hear from the winning team.
Yeah, they sure know where the organizational bread is buttered. So yeah, good stuff there, getting the proper thanks in. So great to hear from those two. I was really glad that they were finding a lot of confidence in this series win, because yeah, it's been a tough road getting to this point, but I really hope they can take this as wind in their sails for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. And like we mentioned, there's not a whole lot of the season left, but we are going to be trying to get as many of these matches streamed as we can. So make sure that you stay tuned to the Discord so that you can follow along with the announced matches here. But that's going to do it here for the NA Diamond tier tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to the teams for putting on such a fun match. Of course, thanks to Rags for joining me for this co-stream behind the scenes. We had Friday as the observer and we had Headrammer as the producer, so shout out to them. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you have a great night, and we'll catch you in the next stream.